afternoon and welcome to RMU Live. Today is Monday, November 9th. I'm Colby Sherwin.
And I'm Ethan Morrison. Here's what's happening now.
Before we start, we have some breaking news. United States Secretary of Housing and Urban Development and former presidential candidate Ben Carson has tested positive for COVID-19. This comes several weeks after the president himself has tested positive. After a highly contested 2020 election, the winner and 46th President of the United States of America will be former Delaware Senator and Vice President Joe Biden. He won with 290 electoral votes. The winning 20 was from none other than our home state of Pennsylvania. RMU Sanctuary Media was covering the election on Tuesday night and Wednesday afternoon. The winner of the election has finally been announced. Biden won early Saturday with Pennsylvania and shortly after Nevada. 3 states have not called their results, with Georgia, North Carolina, and Alaska. Congrats, President-elect Biden.
Representative Connor Lamb has been re-elected to a second 2-year term in Congress by defeating the Republican challenger Sean Parnell. The Associated Press determined the outcome of the election on Saturday. Just like President-elect Biden, Connor Lamb fell behind Parnell by a considerable amount before he gained a narrow lead Wednesday after mail-in ballots were counted, which favored Lamb roughly 3-1. Lamb claimed victory Wednesday night at the Steamfitters Union Hall in Beachview. Saturday, Lamb stated, quote, "Thank you for the people of PA District 17 for putting your trust in me to continue to serve you in Congress," end quote. This is the first RMU-TV show to announce Lamb's victory.
As the winning votes came in for former Vice President Joe Biden, thousands took to the street, even here in Pittsburgh, from Squirrel Hill to Regent Square and down to the South Side. Chants broke out with "This is what democracy looks like, and our votes matter." This took place after 1:30 on East Carson Street. Once the big crowd was formed on East Carson, they made their way downtown. Pittsburgh police made sure they didn't block any busy streets. They then went across a 10th Street bridge. Robin Young, who is 61, said, quote, "We helped make it happen here in Pennsylvania, from one end of the state to the other," end quote.
Trump supporters flooded the city council building on Friday afternoon when another group showed up in the opposition. The main message the president's supporters voiced that every legal vote should count. A few moments later, an opposing group confronted the Trump supporters, and that is where words were started to be exchanged. Attorney General Josh Shapiro says that he has not seen any evidence of voter fraud in Pennsylvania. Earlier in the morning, there was another group gathered outside the Allegheny County election warehouse. Over the weekend, the U.S. hit its record for most COVID-19 cases in one day with 128,000 on Saturday. In PA, there were 3,000 new cases of COVID-19. This brings the total in the state to 235,000 cases of COVID-19. In Allegheny County, there were 260 new cases and no deaths, bringing the county to just under 4,000 cases and 447 deaths of COVID-19.
The University of Pittsburgh will be going into shelter-in-place on the main campus. This is due to COVID cases rising to 41 over the weekend. The university believes it is due to Halloween gatherings. Students will be allowed to leave their dorms for classes, labs, to pick up food, exercise safely, or to study in the library. They are also recommending that group projects take place virtually. The university will be offering campus dining beginning today as takeout only.
Seneca Valley High School will now move to fully remote learning due to a surge in COVID-19 cases. According to the district officials, 8 students have now tested positive, while 1 other student's test is pending. This remote learning model will take place starting today through Friday. Intermediate high school students that transition to high school will continue to do so, as the teachers will continue to be in the building each day. They will participate with students in class that are learning remotely. As of Friday, November 6, 220. On November 8th, there are 2020, there are a total number of 77 positive coronavirus cases on the campus of Robert Morris University. Along with the positive cases, 51 students and 13 employees are in isolation, while 172 students and 4 employees are in quarantine. These numbers have significantly spiked over the past couple of weeks. RMU will continue their random COVID-19 tests through the end of in-person classes on November 20th. With the Robert Morris men's basketball schedule announced, Robert Morris now plans to host a limited number of fans at the UPMC Event Center for all non-conference games this season. This includes 5 non-conference matchups and 12 conference home games. In accordance with the Pennsylvania Health Department, the Colonials can host 600 fans in the arena that seats 4,000, which comes out to around 15% capacity. Because of the COVID-19 orders, there will be no single game tickets for sale only. Season ticket packages will be available. The Horizon League has also announced that all conference games played in the month of December will not allow fans inside the arena. The Horizon League will continue to monitor the situation to determine if limited fans will be allowed in the months to come. Speaking of the UPMC Event Center, let's toss it over to Cameron Macariola to give us an update on Colonial sports. Cam, take it away.
Thank you, guys. It's been a while since we last talked about RMU sports, but we have some huge news in RMU sports. Last week, RMU released the schedule for both men's and women's basketball. As you can see here, the men's basketball team starts their season with 5 non-conference games as they start their season versus Point Park and then face Central Michigan and Florida Gulf Coast. And then we have a rematch of last season's NEC championship versus St. Francis. Then we head down to West Virginia to take on the Mountaineers starting December 19th. RMU begins their conference play versus Cleveland State. Some big games to look out for is on the 29th and 30th of January against Wright State. Another big set of games is versus Youngstown February 5th and 6th. The men's team comes into the 2020-21 season ranked 4th in the preseason polls. Now to the women's basketball, they haven't released their non-conference games yet, but they will also start their conference play against Cleveland State. Some big games to look out for are on New Year's Day versus IUPUI. And on the 15th and 16th of January, they take on Northern Kentucky, and just a few days later, they host Wright State. The Colonials, the women's basketball team, comes into the season ranked 5th in their conference. And finally, today, the women's ice hockey team released their schedule as well. The women's hockey team will play 20 exclusively conference matchups. As you take a look here, they start their season versus Penn State, then home and home versus Mercyhurst, and then take on Lindenwood, Syracuse, and another home and home against RIT. They take on Penn State again, and then Lindenwood again, and the second home and home versus RIT, then Syracuse, and end their season with a home and home against Mercyhurst. In other Colonial news, the men's cross-country team is back, and speaking of back, let's go back to the desk.
Robert Morris professor Arif Sirlintalicki and students created a wheelchair for Dakota, a 12-year-old German Shepherd. There was an idea to first support Dakota's mobility with a canine wheelchair, though similar products are available for purchase around the $400 to $500 mark. So instead of raising that money, they decided to devise a model costing less than $100. Thanks to the chance meeting with Sirlintalicki and in the efforts with the Robert Morris School of Engineering, Dakota may get the chance to take a few shorter strolls through the neighborhood. The RMU Department of Arts and Humanities with the Ashcat Theater is proud to present Evening Shorts of the Dragon. The production was streamed via Zoom over the weekend. The Dragon is a tale of the town of Rising by the dragon that doesn't really mind that much salvation. Appears in the form of a hero who plans to defeat the dragon with or without their support. The production featured current RMU students and RMU alumni.
On Wednesday, November 11th, the Center for Veterans and Military Families will be hosting a virtual celebration, Military Service and Academic Achievement. It will be taking place on the 12th. The event will include RMU ROTC Color Guard, enthusiastic singing by John Tucci, patriotic music by the RMU Band, a message from President Chris Howard and CVMF Director David Osman, and a special inspirational slideshow. Before the holiday break, UPMC My Health at School will be hosting a holiday celebration virtual lunch and learn on November 12th from 10 to 11. This lunch and learn is to help you stick with your healthy eating goals throughout the holiday season.
The Rudy program will be holding their virtual reunion panel discussion, the economic impact of COVID-19 perspectives from Chile, France, Ireland, and the U.S. on Wednesday, November 11th at noon. The event is moderated by the Center for Global Engagement Director, Jennifer Creamer. The panel includes RMU Associate Professor of Management, Ilda Griffin, L., and 3 past Rooney Scholars. Robert Morris's 5th annual Entrepreneurship Week kicks off on November 16th and goes through November 22nd. Join the Massey Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation for a headlining virtual lineup of iconic entrepreneurships and captains of innovation. Now let's toss it over to Austin Bechtold to give us a look at the weather.
Austin, what do you have for us?
Thank you, guys. And as you can see, it is bright, it is hot, and it's as bright really as the Steelers' first 8 games this season. But how bright is it? How hot is it? 75 degrees is the official high. I think that might be a record for November 9th. It is so hot, and there is not a cloud in the sky. So that's obviously great. 61 degrees is the low, and the humidity is 57%. And you can really feel it out here, at least I can definitely feel it out here with the sun beating down on me. 10% chance of rain. In the most Pittsburgh way that I could say it, it ain't gonna rain, at least today. The hourly forecast for today at 3 o'clock, it's gonna get a little bit cooler, but not by much. Still gonna be very sunny and 72 degrees. Now at 6 o'clock with falling back, moving the clocks back an hour. It will get darker around 6 o'clock, and it'll be 65 degrees at 6 and getting even cooler a little bit around 9 o'clock with no sun out. It'll obviously be dark at 9 o'clock. 58 degrees will be the high. That is the hourly forecast and today's forecast. I'll be back a little bit later on in the broadcast to give you a little bit more weather and the 5-day forecast. Colby and Ethan, back to you.
Thank you, Austin. Coming out after the break, we will talk more about the 2020 election results. Stick with us right here on RMU Live.
Roll over. Chance high five. All right.
When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique.
And your mother and her.
I am totally a hat person. Right, guys?
Thanks for being honest.
They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love. Adopt pure love at theshelterpetproject.org.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. Why? My. Oh.
Stem is precise, no margin for error.
Dare to forget that. Dare to have fun with it. Get weird with it. Dare to send those old STEM theories flying past the neighbor's house into outer space. Dare to program something internet-breaking, record-breaking. Dare to blow their minds. Dare to learn the difference between sedimentary and metamorphic rock. Go find those rocks. Dare to keep daring. Dare to STEM. Check out She Can STEM to get started.
Welcome back to RMU Live. The Norwood School District implemented a modified lockdown after there was a threat advised by the North Huntington Police Department just after 8 in the morning. Dispatchers told KDKA that an incident was taking place along Crestwood Drive. The Pennsylvania State Police Department SWAT team arrived shortly after 9 a.m. The district notified all K-4 buildings were closed for the day due to the incident.
Giant Eagle and Markey districts are looking to fill 600 positions across the Pittsburgh area, from full-time to part-time positions. There'll be a socially distant in-person hiring event at 38 Giant Eagles. Anyone interested can meet recruiters and have a chance to have an offer that day. Anyone who shows up is asked to wear face coverings or check out Giant Eagle's career website at gianteagle.com/recruiting events. The Pittsburgh Borough of Liquor Control and Enforcement issued 8 warnings to local restaurants and bars violating state mandates for COVID-19. They issued 11 warnings in the Pittsburgh area and 42 warnings statewide to other restaurants. The unannounced compliance checks make sure customers are wearing masks when entering or exiting, moving through the restaurant, and that employees wear masks at all times. They're also checking to make sure there are 6 feet physical barriers between customers.
Early Monday morning, President-elect Joe Biden revealed members of his transitional COVID-19 advisory board. According to the Washington Post, Dr. Vivek Murthy, Dr. David Kessler, and Dr. Marcella Nunes-Smith will be co-chairs on the board along with 10 other world-renowned doctors on the force.
President Trump's legal team repeated its vow yesterday to bring a new wave of lawsuits contesting Joe Biden's win of the presidency. Today, saying that there were voter fraud in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia. In one case, they believe a woman's vote was counted here in Pittsburgh after she passed. The president's lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, said, quote, "We have enough to change Pennsylvania. The Pennsylvania election was a disaster," end quote. No word has been said on the case, made on the case yet. With many states being so close, Americans are wondering how would recounts work. In Pennsylvania, if the margin of victory is less than 1%, then a recount automatically happens. If there are only other 2 ways, if the margin is more. The voters file for a report. If the candidate wants to call a recount, they cannot do it on their own. The way the system works, they need 3 voters in each district. The challenge to do it on the behalf of the other way would be if taken to court, voters file a petition for a recount. The court of common pleas again on behalf of the candidate. 3 citizens must show the court evidence of fraud or errors in the vote count, which in the polls, poll watchers become a part of the process.
Leaders across the world cheered as Joe Biden was named president-elect on Saturday afternoon. Trump has yet to concede, but Western and Asian allies expressed hope for a fresh start following Trump's America. First, trade policies withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement and attacks on NATO and the World Health Organization. There was no immediate reaction from Russian President Vladimir Putin, who was friendly with Trump. Other leaders supported Trump, congratulated Biden, indicating that they disagreed with Trump's claim that the election was not over. A lot has been said about the stress and anxiety adults are feeling because of the election. But what is it like for kids? Meredith Wood shares some tips for child therapists on how to talk to your kids through this time in today's Health Minute.
It's been an intense election season, and kids are watching too.
One of the first things that can be very helpful is to ask them questions. Ask them what they know, what they're curious about, and what they've heard.
Child therapist Cheryl Ziegler says kids as young as preschool can understand concepts of people having different opinions.
And you can let them know that that's what we're doing when it comes to an election. It comes down to about 2 people, and there's somebody's going to win and somebody's going to lose.
To help kids process the election, you can encourage your kids to participate by voting on something themselves.
You can be fun with it at home, like, vanilla, chocolate, strawberry, pick one from one of the 3. You can give them those kinds of choices.
To deal with outcomes, Ziegler says you should reinforce to children that in the end, they will be okay.
I think that's the bottom line, is the kids need to hear we're going to be okay, and that you depersonalize it a little bit by just saying, everybody has their own sets of values and things that are important to them. Here's what ours are as a family, which is a great time to talk about it, and then compare and contrast that to the candidates.
For today's Health Minute, I'm Meredith Wood.
In the wake of the election, it is important to share with kids some of the differing opinions that people have. Coming up after the break, the Steelers have a staff member tested positive with COVID-19.
And several rock bands have announced they will be releasing new albums. Stay tuned here on RMU Live.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made her college years happen. opening that education savings account when she was little, spearheading a campus tour, and another, and another, and another, and another. Bam! Deciphering financial aid. She was like, what? But now she's like, you aced planning for college. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Jason, let's go see your room.
Things could be stranger, but I don't know how. I'm going through changes now. Could spend a lifetime trying to figure it out. I'm going through changes, through all of the strangeness. I'm going through changes now.
Welcome back to RMU Live. A Steelers staff member has tested positive for COVID-19 on Saturday morning. The staff member has to self-quarantine according to the Steelers. The team is working with the National Football League to complete contact tracing. The Steelers will continue to monitor and evaluate the situation and make the appropriate adjustments.
Speaking of the Steelers, let's send it over to Cameron Cariola to tell us more about how they did over the weekend. Cameron, what's up?
Thank you, guys. We've had a big weekend in sports. In football news, the Steelers are 8-0 as they pulled off an ugly win against the 2-7 Cowboys by a score of 24-19. And on primetime, the Saints demolished Brady and the Bucs by a score of 38-3. Tom Brady did shake Breeze's hand after the loss. Other big games around the league included the Bills beating the Seahawks by a score of 44-34, and Tua Tagovailoa is now 2-0 as a starter as he beat Kyler Murray and the Cardinals. Speaking of Tua, his alma mater, Alabama, is now ranked #1 as the former #1 team in the nation. Clemson lost to Notre Dame in double overtime by a score of 47-40. Clemson was without their star player, Trevor Lawrence, and a big surprise in college football season is Penn State, as they lost to Maryland, led by Tua's brother, Tua Tagovailoa. In other sports news, a champion has been crowned in NASCAR as Chase Elliott becomes the third youngest driver to win the Cup Series and third father-son duo to win a Cup. Fun fact, Chase's father, Bill, won his title in 1988, and in that year, the Lakers and Dodgers also won their championship, just like 2020. Finally, teammate of Chase Elliott, Jimmy Johnson, only the third seven-time champ, calls it a career. During his post-race interview, Jimmy said he is full. Jimmy's last title came in Elliott's first season, and Elliott's first title came during Jimmy's last season, a storybook ending to an amazing career. And in other breaking news, RMU football just released their schedule. We'll get into that next week. Back to the guys on the desk.
Thank you, Cameron. Some sad news came out over the weekend as Allie Trebek, genial Jeopardy host, with all the answers and reassuring presence in the TV game show landscape for over 50 years, has died after a lengthy battle with pancreatic cancer. Trebek is survived by his wife, Jean, whom he married in 1990, and his 3 children. In over 37 seasons, Trebek hosted more than 80,200 episodes of Jeopardy! Trebek passed away early Sunday morning in his home with his family by his side. He was 80 years old. Dave Chappelle hosted Saturday Night Live this past weekend and dropped a 16-minute monologue, providing comedic insight into topics such as COVID-19 pandemic, the anti-mask movement, and the 2020 presidential election. This is the second time Chappelle hosted the post-election show, as he hosted back in 2016 when President Donald Trump was initially elected. Jim Carrey and Maya Rudolph returned to the show with the roles of President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris.
Speaking of Saturday Night Live, the Foo Fighters also played a big role in Saturday's SNL. They debuted their new song, Shame Shame, and announced on social media they will have a new album coming out called Medicine at Midnight that will be released on February 5th.
Florida will be facing some severe weather. We'll tell you more about the storm.
And Austin Bechtold will be back live in our weather studio to tell us more about our local weather. Stay here.
Love is love.
What are you doing in there? What's that?
I wouldn't do that. What are you doing? What are you looking for?
How prepared is your family if a hurricane shows up at your doorstep, or a flood, or a blizzard? You can't just turn away a natural disaster. That's why it's important to go to ready.gov/plan now. It has the tools and tips you need to make an emergency plan with your family. So if disaster comes knocking,
let's go.
You'll be ready to help keep your family safe.
It's just a pizza.
Yes. Make a plan today.
Welcome back to RMU Live. Florida could face a 1-2 punch from Tropical Storm Eta, which could drop off up to 1 foot of rain in the Florida area. It went through Cuba earlier this week, and now was headed to the Florida coast. It could have a storm surge up to 4 feet. It would be the first named storm to make landfall in Florida, according to the Weather Channel. The storm could potentially hit the Florida coast once again when the storm regroups in the Gulf of Mexico. It could shift northward and head back towards the Florida mainland. Let's send it over to Austin Bechtel to tell us more about the weather. Austin?
Thank you, Ethan. And as I mentioned earlier, it is hot and it is bright. 73 degrees, a little bit different from the high we originally had of 75. 73 degrees, and you saw out there, it was very bright out, not a cloud in the sky. Like I mentioned earlier, it's bright as the Steelers season so far. Knock on wood with the rest of the season. But it's 51 degrees is going to be the low. But the hourly forecast, 72 degrees at 3 o'clock, only a couple hours from now. 65 at 6 and 58 at 9 o'clock as the sun starts to set and go down. Now, tomorrow's forecast is going to be 75 degrees with a low of 61 degrees. Relative temperature is similar to what we had today. Same with the humidity of 57%. And the chance of rain, there probably is no rain that we will be seeing in the next couple days with this extreme heat. 10% there. Now, for your 5-day forecast, on Wednesday, this is where we could be seeing some rain for the first time this week. 66 degrees is the high there with a low of 46. And it's going to get a little colder as the week goes on. Thursday and Friday, as well as Saturday, it's going to be cloudy with the sun peeking out at times. 56 degrees is the high for all 3 days, with the lowest temperature of those 3 days coming on Friday with a low of 33 degrees. And on Sunday, another possibility for a chance of rain. 58 degrees is the high with a low of 41. That's the weather for this week. I'm Austin Bechtold. We're going to send it back over to Ethan and Colby. Guys.
Thank you, Austin. If you missed the broadcast of the election, it is on the RMU-TV YouTube channel. Now, if you do watch that, you're going to find two familiar faces on here. Ethan and I were in the PNC Colonial Cafe for most of the show. Ethan, how did you think that went for us?
I think it went pretty well. We didn't get a lot of I guess results in there that first night because of the mail-in ballots that were coming in. But it was a really fun time, and then the just the results coming out throughout the week was just really exciting. So
yeah, it was really great time to get some experience down there. Well, that's all for us. Thank you for tuning in to RMU Live. For Austin Bechtold and Cameron Coriola, I'm Colby Sherwin.
And I'm Ethan Morrison. Stay healthy, stay well, and we will see you next week right here on RMU Live.
Have a good week, everyone.